What's up, fam? Welcome to Birds of a Feather Live on A2DRadio.com. Tuesday night, coming at you a little later than usual, working out some things, but we're here. You got myself, you got Chucks, you got Mr. Pete Evans and Mr. Brodo on the ones and twos. Big week for the Patriots, and what happens? Kevin Godwin decides he's going to take a personal day. He's going to sit out this conversation. But we're happy to be with you guys. We're talking top 10 running backs of 2000 and later up to current date. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the big news that dropped of Cam signing a one-year deal with the Patriots. We'll talk about how that affects the Patriots, how it affects the league, the NFC or the AFC East, and much more. And we are brought to you by our doctor, Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy, who you can find in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton, New Jersey. And you can find him on the web at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. There's no appointment necessary. So get on there, give him a call, hop online, and check it out and set up your appointment with our doc. He's the best in the business. Check him out. We're also brought to you by Ambuck Services. Type in the promo code A2D, get you 25%, or not type in. Let Michael Ambrose know that A2D sent you. You get 25% off. Gutter guards, gutter cleaning, tree trimming, deck installation, restoration, whatever you guys need. Summertime, get your houses in order. You know, it seems like there's going to be a lot of barbecue time out there. So check out Michael Ambrose and let him know that we sent you. You get your percentage off on A2D. It's ambuckservices.com. Also, Body Check Wellness, guys. Your CBD oils, all that. You got any kind of aches and pains, you have any kind of anxiety and stress, these are the guys to check out. We had a nice interview with Riley Cote and Todd Hermans, who, it's their company. It's awesome. And listen, if you use the promo code A2D, it's going to get you 20% off. So check them out, bodycheckwellness.com, and that's BODYCHEK wellness.com. And obviously our topic of conversation, as we mentioned, is going to be running back talk today. Chuck is probably having an erection as we speak. And we're going to be talking top 10 running backs of 2000 and later. There it is, right there. We're going to be talking that, and that's brought to you by QB54. It's the best tailgating game in the business, guys. So get out there, check it out. Go online, type in playqb54.com. Use the promo code. No notes. Get you, or is it A2D? I don't even remember the promo code, guys. You can tell me. Try one of them. It's going to get you 25% off.
Yes, I think A2D is the right one.
Okay. But check it out. Get in there and get your tailgating game. Have fun with your friends in the backyard or wherever you're going to be at. Gentlemen, topic of conversation or question or whatever it is. Christian McCaffrey is the top 5 running back since 2000. Agree, disagree? I'm just going to say right off the bat, I totally disagree. Doesn't even come into the conversation for me. I mean, really, when you look at the elite running backs now, he hasn't done it long enough. I'm not saying that, he's not going to be one of those guys that's thrown into that conversation in a few years, but he's still a ways off for me. There's a lot of elite running backs. And honestly, when you look at even the early, from 2000 just to 2010 alone, to me, that's the majority of the list. There's only a couple, in my opinion, that are still in the league now that have done enough to be given consideration to be thrown into this top 10 list. So for me, 100% disagree. Christian McCaffrey is not a top 5 running back since 2000. Pete?
Not yet. He's close. Not yet.
I don't even think he's that close.
I mean,
I think close.
When I look at, you'll see when
close
my top
is like
10
he's
RBs,
a year or two away of doing it. Pete, he's not close.
If we base it off of the talent of what we've seen and then the advancement from when he came into the league and how I value running backs, it's not. I need an all-around versatile back where he can do it all. And it's kind of like what Chuck's was with Mahomes. Even though I wouldn't have Mahomes 1, we haven't seen. We can't really say anything about McCaffrey but his ceiling. Like if he has another 1,000 yards next year, that may be technically his floor. Obviously, we have to see how long his body can hold up. But when I look at the top running back since 2000, I'm looking at talent-wise and what they all can do. I mean, obviously, CJ2K, was it C2K? CGJ? I can't forget. Chris Johnson from Tennessee. He was fast as hell. but that was about it. He didn't catch the ball in the backfield, couldn't pick up blitz as well. When I look at McCaffrey, I already think he's a more complete running back than somebody of that nature. You know what I mean? When we look back at the 2000s. So I disagree to the poll, but I don't think that he's not that far off.
Chuckser?
I'm in between. If it's depending on how we're going to formulate the question. If we're talking about just, top 5 running back in terms of like accomplishments and, career stats and everything, he's not close to it. He's only been, in the league for 3 years now, 3 seasons. So, it's not enough to get him in the conversation if you're going to talk about career accomplishments and legacy and all that. But if you want to go off of just talent and compare his talent level to the running backs of the past 20 years, I'd say you can make a good argument for it. And I don't want to give away my rankings because I think I went about it a little different from you guys, which will be good conversation because I figured you guys would go off of career stats and everything, which is great, but I wanted to approach it a little differently just so we can get some disagreements on it. But I think it's all about how you formulate the question. And so if you're talking about top running backs and legacy, no, because he hasn't been doing it long enough. But if you want to talk in terms of talent, then you've got that. That's definitely a conversation you can have.
All right. Who wants to kick us off and start with? So we all came up with our own lists.
Yep.
As you boys did last week when I wasn't here in terms of the top 10 quarterbacks.
So top 5, and that was already even top 5 was already pretty crazy.
Yeah, you know what though? I think because running back can be open for interpretation. There's so many you're splitting hairs when you're starting. Like, to me, the top 3 or 4 maybe I think are going to be probably close to consistent with all of us.
Yeah.
When you're talking about quarterbacks, you're splitting hairs. I mean, running backs, you're splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, to me, if somebody has an astronomically unacceptable list, there's a lot to talk about. We got to sit down and we have to have an intervention, Chucks, about some people's lists. So, I don't know it's going to be that crazy. It's probably why it was a little more conducive to do a top 10 for this week. So let's fire it up. How do we want to do this, boys? Do we want to just go through our lists?
So
do we want to each go down our top, go number 10?
So should we go
around?
10 through 5 and then run our 10 through 6 and then top 5 go around one by one?
Yeah, I think that
works for me.
We'll do 10 to 6. So that's second half. We'll each say those 5, and then we'll go what we did last week. We'll go one by one. And real quick before we move on, I just want to say, oh my God, welcome back, Chrome. By the way, it's great to have you back. Oh my God,
I've been on a while.
Missed you, man, and it's good to have you back on. And just nice to hear your voice.
Shirts.
And we all got the shirts.
Yeah, by the way, my bad for not even mentioning them in the beginning because they get a huge shout out, guys. Philly, you got to hit up Philly Drinkers. This is our Birds of a Feather merch right here, but you can get your fix, AM and the PM, Agree to Disagree, Sports Hounds, In This Very Ring, Lazy Booking, Hockey Happy Hour, every show on here that you love. You can go get your show shirts. You can go get your Philly Quarterback Factory shirt, which, by the way, still has the promo code A2D. Get you 25% off that shirt. Go and get all of your merch, boys. I'm telling you, there's a lot of good stuff on there. We got tumblers. We got swim shorts. We got stickers. They have all kinds of not just some show shirts. There's awesome A2D designs on there that you could check out. Stuff that looks like, it's Philadelphia Phillies inspired, Sixers inspired, all kinds, Eagles inspired, all kinds of really cool stuff. So get on there, check it out, phillydrakers.com. Shout out to Alex for all the great work he does over there at Philly Drakers. We know we appreciate him. He's awesome to work with. So who wants to kick this thing off? I could go if you want. I'll give my 5 through 10.
6 to 10.
If you like. 6 to 10, whatever, Chucks. Shut your mouths.
I just want
All
to
right.
get ahead of the game, man.
All right. So I'm going to count down from 10. So at 10, I have Marshawn Lynch simply because to me, he's the elite bruising back of the last 15 to 20 years. Overall talent-wise, maybe there were some other guys that we could have considered, but I felt like a guy in his role needed to have recognition on this list. So I have Marshawn Lynch at number 10. Number 9, I have Priest Holmes, who was an absolute stud in his day. And it would be a tragedy to leave Priest Holmes off this list. Number 8, I have Ezekiel Elliott, who in a very short amount of time has had a lot of success, a lot of Pro Bowls, rushing titles. I think it would be unfair to keep him off of the list. Number 7, I have Le'Veon Bell, and another guy who is still active. And I know that we're starting to see the downside of the Le'Veon Bell, but when Le'Veon was at the top of his game, I think we could all agree that there was no question who the top running back in the NFL was. And number 6, I have Shaun Alexander, who was an absolute stud. Shaun Alexander was a stud. You talk about a guy to me, too, at the time that he played, there was definitely a 3 or 4 year window where he may have been the best running back in the league. Rushing titles. He won an MVP at running back. Yep. It's just tough to leave him off the list. So again, just to repeat, my 10 down to 6, Marshawn Lynch, Priest Holmes at 9, Ezekiel Elliott at 8, Le'Veon Bell at 7, and Shaun Alexander at number 6. Reactions?
No, I like it. Priest Holmes, he made my honorable mention, so I think a lot of people forget how good Priest was before the concussions. They transitioned right from Priest right into Jamaal Charles, if I'm not mistaken. They may have had a couple years difference. Yeah. And that's another that Kansas City backfield, that used to be an injury bug waiting to happen. But while he was there for those 2 or 3 years, boy, oh boy, was you a fantasy stud, boy, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years. What was it? Elliot Harrison from NFL Network had said that had done a video on him, and man, that 3 year stretch, it's hard to find a better 3 year stretch from a running back, not only in the last 20 years, but maybe even going
in the history of the league.
In the history of the league,
yeah.
He was as good as there was, and having him there in the conversation, absolutely, like, he belongs in the conversation. I like your list. I do, based on the criteria of like just all time greatest running backs. I like the names, and we're gonna continue to get into it, but man, like, this is a tough list. This is a very there are so many good running backs. Honestly, when I give my list, you guys give your list, it's going to be hard for me to argue against a lot of it, and it's going to be hard for me to argue against any disagreements you have with mine, because honestly, like, you can make a case for guys in probably 11 to 20 could be in the conversation. So, but your 10 are very good, really good.
Right up until Showtime, I had guys that I was kind of swapping in and out.
Yeah.
I got at least 3 that I really felt like I could have rotated in here, and maybe overall you can look at like that you might put above Marshawn Lynch again. And I don't think anybody's been that type of back for as long as he has and had the success that he has. Like, to me, he's the standard. And I felt like that had to have a recognition. That's why I slid him at 10. But there was like 2 or 3 other. I was rotating names in and out. I had other guys on the list that I took off. It was really hard.
Yeah.
Really, really. Right up until literally 2 minutes before we went on the air, I was swapping a couple names out. So, yeah, it was really, really tough. Yeah. But, you talk about, too, I don't get too caught up in how long a guy's period of success was, because you talked about, right, Chuck? Like, that might have been one of the best 3 year stretches in the history of the league. And I always go back and I look at Terrell Davis as the standard for that. Like, to me, that guy's a Hall of Famer and played 4.5, 5 years.
I think a year.
Because of injuries. And to me, that dude in a very short period of time, maybe one of the best running backs in the history. he might be a top 3 or 5 running back in the history of the league if he didn't have the injury issues that he did.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about this kind of stuff, again, I try to look at longevity with some guys, which you'll see in the top part of my list. But I also look at when you were at your peak, how were you looked at by the NFL world, by the football world, by the fans, by the analysts? How is your legacy since then, even though you only played a certain amount of years? I mean, just certain guys that deserve a nod regardless of the longevity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
P, you go next because I know my list is going to be very different. So
I'm just going to say this. There's a Hall of Famer that's sitting outside my top 10 who is the 4th rusher of all time. That's a trivia question out there for you guys and the fam to see if you guys can figure it. There you go. Well, you didn't count. You can't play.
Who'd you say, Chucks?
Curtis Martin.
Oh, yeah. He
Man, I know.
Not one of the – he's another guy I had out there. And I'm like, shit, man. There were so many good running backs.
So many.
Especially 2000 to 2010.
Yes.
Because a lot of when you really look into it, a lot of times when people make up lists, they'll go like 2000s and then 2010s. And man, I was looking at some of these lists and some guys, and I'm like,
you forget about them. Like,
Curtis Martin was damn good for a long time.
Consistent was the name of his game, man. Not flashy, not like nothing really too special about him in terms of physically, but man, just consistent for a long, long time.
Listen, you guys know I'm a Dolphins guy too. I like Miami. Man, I had to deal with him with the Patriots and with the Jets. It was frustrating. It was headbanging when it came to Curtis Martin. Yeah. He's that guy. He's like a Jason Witten type of guy, right? Like Eagles fans hate the Eagles, but you can't help but respect the guy.
Absolutely.
Curtis Martin was always that guy. I wanted to hate him because he always put up numbers against my team. But man, he's such a good dude and such a, like you said, Mr. Consistency year in and year out.
Yeah.
Another sleeper, probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks since 2000.
Running backs.
Because he had running backs. He had shit quarterbacks. That's what I meant to say.
Oh yeah.
And that's Matt Forte. Like people forget, man. Like he was in the top 5 receiving yards from running backs, rushing yards, touchdowns. Like, and he had a good 4, 5, 6 year run in Chicago where he was playing with absolute crap. Yeah. So
I'm going to wait on a couple of my honorable mentions because I want you guys to go through yours and see if you mention them on yours.
Yeah.
So my 10 through 6 is 10 is Ezekiel Elliott, 9 is Christian McCaffrey, 8 is Marshawn Lynch, 7 is Lesean McCoy, 6, just because he's a freak of nature and he's only been in the league for 2 years, Saquon Barkley. And you could put him in any era. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That home run ability, it doesn't matter. It's just he's a freak. And Zeke, 10, 15 years from now, just like we were talking about with the quarterbacks last week, it could be going higher on this list. Could be number 1. We don't know. But just off of when I look at the running back position and how I attacked this was, we just talked about the 2000 to 2010 running backs. It was a different game back then. It was probably a 3-down back.
Exactly.
For these guys, I feel like they could still be that 3-down back. The young guys I'm specifically talking about, Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon, but you don't lose anything as far as running the ball. We've seen that. Zeke's been in the league now going his 5th year. We've seen it. Don't get me wrong, the offensive line's been great, but listen, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You put him behind you put Zeke behind Emmitt Smith's line that he had in Dallas. You're talking about going after Eric Dickerson's record because that's all they would do is just run the ball. Mm-hmm. So that's my 10 through 6. I don't know if it shocks anybody out there, if anybody that I missed, anybody that doesn't agree with the rankings. I'm not all young. I gave Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
I gave Marshawn Lynch a nod. I gave Lesean McCoy a nod.
I hear you. I still think it's too young for guys like Saquon. I don't agree with now. 2 years from now, I might be having a different conversation with you, but I disagree with him now. McCaffrey, again, it's perception. For me, he's still another year or two away, too, from breaking my list, but I don't hate it. I think way too early for Saquon.
Talk about talent. Talent.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Agree to disagree.
That's what that's who we are.
I have no problem with him being up there.
John, I looked at him. He says Arian Foster. Anyone remember him?
Yeah.
I looked at him.
I mentioned,
if it was a top 15 to 20, he would make my list. Definitely not a top 10, though.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't even on a fringe for me.
Gotcha. So I went about this a different way than you guys. So I tried to do my best to just ignore stats as much as I could. And so I wanted to see how different, because I did make like a rough top 8-ish list based on like, the criteria you guys had. And it came out very similar to what you guys have. But then I was like, yeah, let's switch it up because I want to be different. And I threw that out, and I'm just going now just on talent alone. So I'm not including injuries. I'm just going on how good as a player they are. And, this way I can more factor in, how long a guy played doesn't matter anymore. Like, even though Frank Gore has been playing for 500 years, like I'm just looking at his talent level, overall. And then, with a guy like, this is hypothetical. Say like if I wanted to talk about like Josh Jacobs, for playing for 1 year, I could include him in the conversation if I wanted to. He didn't make my list. I'm just saying that's the criteria I'm going off of. It's simply just talent and not career numbers. So I want to make that clear because I know a lot of people. My list is going to be different from what you two have, but I purposely did it that way. Also, so that people don't get on me, I purposely left off 5 guys on my list on purpose, so people would refrain from people saying, "Oh, he's being a fanboy." So I left off Westbrook, I left off McCoy, I left off Kareem Hunt, I left off Miles Sanders, and I left off Ray Rice because all of them have been like 5 of my personal favorite running backs. But to leave out bias and everything, I just left them off. I didn't include them at all when it came to these rankings. So they are not on my list. And when it comes to I started my trying to formulate this list Wednesday of last week, so the day after our show. And to properly do this and have a real thorough ranking, I would need like a whole month or two because I tried my best to watch as much film I could find on everyone, and it's really tough, especially for the guys from the year 2000, 2010. Game Pass doesn't have coaches' film on them, so I can't really break down film of them. I'm going off of YouTube highlights and what I remember. So there are guys like Priest Holmes, you mentioned, Priest Holmes, Ricky Williams, Sean Alexander, Jerome Bettis, Curtis Martin, Tiki Barber, Maurice Jones-Drew. I didn't really get to restudy them as much as I wanted. So I just kind of they might not have gotten a fair shot on my list. Just a pretense. But just to get into it now, so from 10 to 6, at number 10, I have the same guy as you, Chrome. I have Marshawn Lynch at 10. I don't think for me personally, I mean, I know we talk about old guys like Jerome Brown and everything, but in this modern era, I don't know if there was a better power back than Marshawn Lynch. He's crazy, insane power.
Yes.
That's like rare power and strength that he has. And I've never seen anyone with that ability, since in the last 20 years. So that was number 10. Number 9 is Le'Veon Bell. Man, is really close between 6 to 9. Really, really close. I would flip flop these 4 guys a lot. Lev Bell. What was crazy about Le'Veon is when he was in college, he was a different player. He was mainly a power back. When he came into the league, he lost a little bit of weight, and then he made himself. He included more elusiveness and finesse in his game, and he also became a more well-rounded guy. And we all know how great he was as a receiver and a pass blocker, absolutely elite. So I don't know how I could leave him off of my top 10. I could have maybe put him even a little higher, but I like the other guys a little bit, just a tad bit more. But Le'Veon Bell was one of the best we've seen in recent years. Number 8, Steven Jackson. I feel like Steven Jackson, because he was in the Rams, a really bad Rams team for so long, his numbers are so consistent, but they don't jump out at you. But if you look at his numbers for years and years and years, he was getting 1,000 yards rushing at least every year, and being a fact, he was a great receiver too. That size, and that power, and that speed and dynamic ability, he was, to me, the Todd Gurley before Todd Gurley. It's just that he was played with a bad team his whole career. So I always thought that Steven Jackson was super, super talented. It just, his career was wasted away. And at number 7, Todd Gurley. Like, we know his knees are done, and that's unfortunate that his career's – it's like we can say, like, he's not the same anymore. But that short stretch, like we were talking about with Priest Holmes, that short stretch, I don't know if I've ever seen – it's hard to find a combination of size and power and speed that Todd Gurley was. He was absolutely unstoppable in 2018. And I know several other guys that have said, like, even coming out of Georgia, they have never seen a running back prospect as good as Todd Gurley. He was number 1. And it's just unfortunate that, he has that arthritis in his knee that's cut his career, that will cut his career short, or his prime. And at number 6, I got Edgerrin James. I think Edgerrin James was one of the really great all-around backs that we talk about. Literally did it all. When you go back, like, he's not a finesse guy like Marshall Faulk, but he still he was catching passes as a receiver from Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning trusted him so much to be there in the backfield as a pass blocker. And that when you impress and you earn that trust of Peyton Manning, that says something, because his standards are so high. So I have Edge at 6, and he's going to be going into the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. People forget how good Edgerrin James was. And it was funny because in that draft, people were wondering why the Colts took him over Ricky Williams. Well, now we look back on it and we see there's a reason why, because he was the better all-around talent, and he was able to stay in the league for a lot longer. So that's my 6 to 10. Again, based on talent alone, not career numbers or career accomplishments.
I don't have a problem with it. I think you're actually underselling Edgerrin James in terms of where his place is in the top 10. I got him a lot higher than that.
Me too.
But you're spot on in your analysis of him. He's all around. I think he's one of the best running backs in the history of the league, period. When you look at the consistency that he had at his prime and his peak, man, he was so good.
Yeah, it was
so
good.
Diverse. He was so versatile. And he was a big key. Listen, he was a big key to Peyton being able to be successful, because he gave that dual threat, because he took some of the attention away, and they were able to, keep the defense on their heels, with having a great passing game and running game. So I think his place is very, very high in this list, personally. But I mean, I don't have a major issue with your list. Most of them are pretty much pretty
Steven
spot
Jackson
on.
shocked me, but
that one, I'm not saying you're wrong in your analysis. I just think there's a lot of other people on this list that would deserve the same kind of consideration for the things you're talking about. But I want to see who else is on your list first.
Yeah,
because I can think of one name who's on my list who I would give a similar explanation for. And I want to see if he's on your list as well.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, Zeke, who is it? Zeke just missed. I was debating him and Marshawn at 10, like back and forth with my hairs. I wanted to put Zeke, because Zeke is super talented. So I just want to throw that out there. Zeke just missed my top 10.
I mean, to me, Zeke over. Oh, I got dogs coming out. To me, Zeke. You might get a cameo. We'll see. But to me, you got Zeke over Steven Jackson in a heartbeat, man. That's where I think you swung and missed in terms of that. I would put Christian McCaffrey over Steven Jackson.
Yeah.
Not
no offense to
disrespecting Steven Jackson. Right.
No, I hear you.
Guy was great he had a great career. He was very, very good. I would be hesitant to put him on this list.
Did you know that Steven Jackson, one season in one of his seasons, he put up where is it? I'm pulling up right now. He had so he had 1,528 rushing yards and 806 receiving yards. In what was that? 2006. That's crazy.
Was Mark Balder his quarterback then?
Yeah, I don't know. I forget who his quarterback was in 2006. But like again, remember those Rams teams were not good. Like you talk about, remember how we always say like Barry Sanders could have had even more stats if he had an actual team. I always thought the same way about Steven Jackson. Like he's that combination of being able to do everything, and he wasn't just a power back. He was, go watch him. He was fast. He had speed. So I just feel like, again, I understand why that might be a name that's some people, but man, like I'm trying to put numbers aside as much as I can and just talk about mainly just talent. And I've always been impressed with this talent. Always been.
Yeah, but I mean, Mark Bulger was the quarterback, but you look at, they still had Isaac Bruce, they still had Torrey Holt. I mean, they had a good roster. I mean, they finished 8-8 that year, but they had a lot of weapons out there in terms of the wide receiving core to open up that field a little bit for him as well and create opportunities for him. So I mean, I'm not disrespecting what he did. He had two potentially Hall of Fame guys on the outside catching football. So
yeah.
And Mark Bulger was a decent quarterback. He wasn't bad.
Yes.
He was a pretty good quarterback, He was a good transitional quarterback coming out of Kurt Warner.
I would say if you put him head-to-head, and Chuck's definitely is going to disagree with this, if you put him head-to-head, to me, Steven Jackson, to me, is in that kind of that Arian Foster class.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 to 20. Maybe 15 to 20. I'd agree.
You know what I mean?
Okay. I guess I'm just more impressed with. I've always been more impressed with Steven Jackson than most.
Well, I mean, Steven Jackson, he did look good with the dreads running in the wind because he could move for a big boy. So that's kind of like that lasting image. But I mean, I would have said if you'd have put Jamal Charles there, I would have had less of an argument because Charles in his heyday was the best running back in the league for one or two seasons.
You funny mentioned him. I have him ranked just behind Zeke at 12.
Okay.
So I have 23 guys ranked, and then I didn't even include all the guys that you said, and there are some names on here. I just enough.
I don't even think it's crazy to say I would have considered Ricky Williams over him. Ricky Williams, you talk about a guy in his peak, and even the guy who took a couple years off from smoking pot and came back, and again was a very, very, very good running back. He was like a close to elite running back for a guy that took 2 years off and really wasn't working out, to be in football shape. Got himself in shape real quick and came right back and was a weapon right away. I mean, to me, that he's more impressive to me than Steven Jackson. And you talk about a guy that played for shitty Miami teams and still managed to put up the numbers that he did. And I don't think he might have had 4 straight years with 4 different quarterbacks at one point. I mean, let's be real. They weren't the model of consistency, and he was always consistent with that football team.
Yeah.
Like, he was just outside of my list. He was one that I kept swapping in and out. So,
yeah.
Oh, the rest of your list I like. I got no problem with it. All right, Chuck's got frozen there.
Sorry, guys.
There he is. He's back. All right, Chucks, I'll let you pick. Who do you want to go next? You want to go next? You want Pete? You want me? Who do you want to do our 5? Should we do 5? Should we do all our 5 through 1, or should we do?
How did you like it? Do you like doing it one at a time, or do you want to?
I like doing it one at a time.
Okay,
let's do one at a time here. Okay,
and let's assemble.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll go first. I'll give you my number 5.
Okay.
So my number 5 is a guy where maybe you guys will agree with, maybe you won't, but I'm impressed with him. 7 out of 9 years, he had 1,000 or more rushing yards. And I'm going with Jamaal Lewis, who I think was an absolute stud over almost an entire decade in Baltimore. And he had a 2,000-plus season, the early 2000s, where he was out of his mind good. I look at a guy like that and his consistency and his talent, and I have Jamaal Lewis at number 5.
I can see it just from 7 out of 9 years, 1,000 yards. The one thing I remember about Jamaal Lewis, he was just a volume rusher. He was like he just kind of that, not so much Marshawn Lynch's, not obviously not to that level, but that's the kind of running back I remember him being.
Yeah.
A little bit out of the backfield, not a true offensive weapon, but for that team, that's kind of what they did. Baltimore beat you with defense, and they wanted to run the ball. And for that and his consistency, I can see why you would put him in the top 5. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I have no qualms with you doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him that high. There are a lot of others that I like better, like more. I always thought Ricky Williams was better than Jamaal Lewis. I like Shaun Alexander better than Jamaal Lewis. I think it's just he did, like you said, Pete. He did that one thing great, really really good at that, but he didn't really do much else. And like it's exactly what you said. It fit perfectly for what the Ravens wanted. But when I'm looking at other guys, I like Shaun Alexander, Ricky Williams, Priest Holmes, more than I would like him. I mean, we talk about there's a lot of these names. Like, remember how last week I told you about like traits and everything, and you guys, I had alluded to it, that I prioritize and value versatility and receiving probably more than most people. Like, most people look at running back and just look at the rushing ability, but to me, I almost look at receiving almost as equal. So someone like Jamaal Lewis, who's one-dimensional, I don't value that, and so he, on my list or how I would view him, he would be lower on that list. I think Priest Holmes even was better. I don't know if I mentioned him, but yeah, I would definitely put Priest Holmes above Jamaal Lewis.
See, here's my deal though. This is why we can look at it differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't hold against guys the fact that their position was utilized in a different way in their era. Like, we see a lot of these guys who are more athletic and who do more as a running back, right? But 15 years ago, you didn't see as many guys. Yeah, you had like Marshall Faulk and a couple of guys who were doing it. For the most part, though, guys were true running backs in what was considered a true running back, pounding the football, volume, like you guys were talking about. So if I'm going to include those guys in a list, I'm going to look at what they did well in their era and their talent in their era, because otherwise the majority of the list would probably be half the league that's in there, the guys that are in the league right now over the last 5 years. And what's the point in going back to 2000 then? So that's how I look at it. So when I look at a guy like Jamaal Lewis, what he did in his era was very, very good, which is what the expectation was of a running back in his time. And I can't fault him for that. That's like people saying in baseball, Pete will understand this, Chucks won't, but, I'm a Cardinals fan, and people always knock, like, people, they'll do it to take shots at me to bust my balls, but people will say, well, Ozzie Smith was, he was what he was because he didn't hit home runs, he didn't do this or he didn't do that. That wasn't what a shortstop was back then. They were defensive. They were base hit guys. Well, I got to guess. They were base hit, they were guys that got on base, and they were table setters. And that was the expectation. Sorry, my dog.
Speaking of table setters.
Yeah. So, I can't fault him for that or talk and say he's not, worthy of the conversation at his position because his era had a different expectation. So they prepared for their job role in a much different way. Guys like Rip can change that in baseball. So that's why I look at it differently, and I think you have to look at the numbers and the success that they had a little more in a list like this, because not everybody had the same expectation in their specific 5 to 10 year window that the guys now in 2020 and coming up in 2021 are going to have. So,
yeah. No, I get it. And I think not this pick, but the next pick is kind of right inside with that, where I think that he probably has the most elite of any talent, of any one trait. And that's my number 4 pick. But so for number 5, I have Chuck's number 6 pick. I have Edgerrin James.
okay.
I don't think he gets enough credit for what he meant to that Indy team, because he got overshadowed by Marvin Harrison, by Peyton Manning, by the offensive line, and the brilliance of Peyton. But without him, it doesn't go. Remember, because the first couple of years they didn't have a running back, it didn't flow so well. You need that balance. Edgerrin provided that balance. He can run out of the backfield, he can catch the ball as well. Wasn't the crispest on routes, but was dangerous enough to be able to give you something. Oh, just looking outside. But to be able to give you something. He was able to bring something to the team that they needed, was that wrinkle. But then he did it consistently over time. Obviously, when he went to Arizona, it's kind of a little shell of himself. But he did produce well. But consistency-wise, over the long term, and what he meant in that era of football, and you can see he's going into the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So he's finally getting rewarded. It's so underrated, though. Like it's
so good.
Yeah, I honestly, and I should have said this earlier, I really realistically could have had Edge at 5 over the guy I have at 5 now. It's that close.
I have Edge even higher than that, boys.
Edge is. I don't. Again, we're splitting hairs here, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, like it's. I have so much respect for Adrian James, especially as someone who I just said, I value versatility, and pass blocking is a huge part of a running back's game that people don't talk about enough, but it's important. You go ask Peyton Manning, he don't put anyone next to him that he doesn't trust to block for his ass, because Peyton Manning ain't scrambling for anything, so he needs someone who he can trust next to him, and that had to do with a lot of the guys who had playing time over next to Peyton Manning over the course of Manning's career, and Edge was that guy. To me, it kind of broke my heart that the year he left Indy was the year they won the Super Bowl, because I would have loved to see Edge get that ring, because he's one of the guys who helped build that team to for them to get to that ring, and that's unfortunate. But yeah, I'm not gonna you're not gonna hear me say a bad thing about Edge. And real quick, I forgot to add, going on to your point about different eras and what they're asked to do. That's a very very understandable point, and it's that's what's so tough, is because I try to stick with my evaluations and what I look for, but then when I go to prior eras, it's Barry Sanders is my GOAT. I always feel like he's the greatest running back.
Oh, I agree with you.
Yeah. Do I now at the same point? Do I knock him for not catching a lot of passes, or is it just that something that they didn't ask of him to do? Because for the very few images we have of him catching passes, he looked like he did it well. He just wasn't asked to do it. So it's kind of like projection. You're kind of just guessing and assuming. So you bring up a very good point, and that's what makes it very, very tough when comparing different eras. So I get that.
Yeah, and again, that's why when at the onset when I said for me, I'm looking at more of their impact in their era, how they were looked in their era, and the success they had. Now that could have been 7 out of 9 years like Jamal Lewis, or it could be a very short window before injuries kicked in, like somebody like a Priest Holmes. But I'm looking at how impactful and how elite were they in their era, because they're going to be asked to do different stuff. Yeah. And that's how I came up with my evaluations on it. So we knew we were going to be different on it, but we're not that far off. No. Really, all of us. A couple surprises, but so far, but.
Well, okay. Well, with my number 5, I feel like I am going to be very far off from what you guys have had.
Buddy.
I am going to, and that's going to make it interesting. And hey, I'll take the heat, because, like I said, my criteria for this list is a lot different, and I'm just going off of what I see based off talent.
This could be anybody.
But number 5, I have Christian McCaffrey at number 5. So I got Christian
Way,
McCaffrey.
way
To
too
me,
high.
I think
I see it. Your thought is just too early.
it to me what he did last year by adding on muscle and being able to take on the load and being that guy that not only caught passes and doing what he's known for, but carrying the load in between the tackles and being that multi-dimensional weapon. To me, he's the next coming of Marshall Faulk. You know, like this is you had Marshall Faulk who did it all before, and then you had the next guy you can argue was Brian Westbrook, who was the multi-dimensional guy, and then now you have Christian McCaffrey, and that means a lot to me when you are not only a running back, you're not only a runner, but you are a receiver too. So when you're technically can be used as two positions, and you're not just a running back, you're a weapon. That means a lot. So again, I understand if you guys think it's really high, but I that's just how high I am on his talent. He doesn't have the career numbers obviously as Edge, and he hasn't done it as long, but that's why I have my criteria for my list the way it is, because I take out longevity, and I'm just trying to go just based on talent, regardless of how long they've played.
No, I get it. Talent wise, I definitely get it. I mean, if I'm picking a running back on the board for my team, and it's Edgerrin James and Christian McCaffrey, they're both rookies, and I'm looking at just their overall skill set, I'm probably going to lean Christian McCaffrey. So I get where you're coming from, and to be honest, my first draft of this list had Christian McCaffrey in the top 5. Mm-hmm. It really did. If I was just solely looking at talent and like their floor, like their ceiling, I should say. If I was looking at their ceiling, Christian McCaffrey would be in the top. He would be in the top 5. For me, he wasn't too far off. He still made the top 10. Mm-hmm. It's just with the top 5, I just need to see a little bit more. But very easily, the birds of a feather running backs top 10 in the offseason 2 or 3 years from now, when we actually have full-time studio and we're COVID free, you know what I mean? We're back to somewhat normal. He definitely could be in the top 5 of running back since 2000.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I mean, I don't that blow up was it? Does it get? Do you have some more shockers on your list, Chucks?
I think I have. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I personally don't think so. I think that was biggest reach, but I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
Personally, I think based on if I'm comparing to we'll just get to it later. I'm trying to think of that. I'm like, is that the biggest reach I have?
Don't worry now.
Is that the biggest shocker? I think it's the biggest.
Right now your biggest reach is Steven Jackson, so that's not even your biggest reach.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't call McCaffrey at 5 a bigger reach than Jackson. You had Jackson at 8, right?
All right, then I had him at 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My number 4, I have Lesean Mccoy. I mean, diverse back, a lot of years of success, multiple franchises. I know we're seeing his decline now, but to me, I mean, he's been elite for a long time. And in terms of what Chucks likes, from a running back, he does just about everything.
Yep.
So I don't need to bore anybody to tears here. Everybody knows what Lesean McCoy is. So for me, number 4, Lesean McCoy.
He's a non-tipper. We know that.
Well, yeah. Well, he would also probably make my top 2 biggest assholes in the league, but we're not doing that today.
2-fold list. Now I completely agree. I mean, his start-stop ability. I always was a fan of his elusiveness, but always with the ball carrying out one hand. Always, I don't know how he didn't fumble as much as he has, as he should have. It's crazy, but he never had that top end speed. If he had that top end gear to be able just to run away from people, I always feel like McCoy, we see him make a couple moves. He gets 30, 40 yards down the field. Either he gets gas or he just doesn't have the top end speed. He will always get caught from behind. Like where you see Zeke had that second gear, you see Gurley in his prime had that second gear. You see Saquon on a high sprained ankle, chuck up the peace sign in week 17. You know what I mean? Like he just never had that. But what he did it really well. He's done it in various different systems with different offensive coordinators. So something has to be there. You know what I mean? Why he was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl, I don't know. Andy Reid wanted to give him a ring. They got a ring. Needless to say, but still, asshole, great football player, deserves to be on this list. I would not personally have him as high as number 4. I think my number 4 is just a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, and a little bit more elite. At one thing, not nowhere near as elusive as Lesean McCoy. What he does it very, very well. That's just my opinion. Chuck?
And who's at number 4? Oh, go ahead, Chuck. So you want to respond to that?
I mean, I'm not gonna. You guys know how I feel about McCoy, but in terms of just all-time greatness, I can't argue that he's absolutely in the conversation of a top 5, and he should be consideration for the Hall of Fame if that's not a thing, because he does everything. He pass block, receiving, elusiveness as heck. I mean, I don't know if we've seen. It's hard, in terms of elusive running back since Barry Sanders, McCoy has to be 1 or 2, or at least right there.
I can't think of another one in the league right now.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Maybe left Bell with the hesitation, but nowhere near the burst to be able to change the gears like that.
McCoy and I wanted to. I didn't. The reason why I didn't include the 5, my 5 favorite running back guys in my list was, so we can also avoid kind of the Westbrook versus McCoy debate that we're gonna have in the studio. But it's just to add on to that, the reason why, when you're talking about greatest Eagles running backs, it's close. But when you're just talking about in general, the fact that McCoy was still able to manage years of success after leaving Philadelphia for a sustained amount of time definitely adds to something that Westbrook just wasn't able to do. Westbrook's injuries to his knees and his concussions ended his career, but McCoy has been able to keep it going. And that absolutely accounts for something when you're talking about greatness. So him having that longevity definitely is go. That's to his credit, and you can't deny that.
So if he was on your list, Chucks, where would you have McCoy at?
Talent? Let's see. I didn't think about it. So
he didn't want to be tempted, Chrome. He didn't want to be tempted.
I think roughly just looking at it close to 5, around somewhere between 5 and again, I'd have to really think about it more, but definitely 5 to 7, 5 to 8, that ranges kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. I didn't really think about where I'd put him, but I think around there.
All right. Pete,
my number 4. My number 4, and I think this is gonna, when I say this guy's name, you're gonna be like, who the hell do I have in my top 3? My number 4 is Adrian Peterson.
Oh, who the hell do you have in your top 3?
Yeah, you'll see. You'll see. I have Adrian Peterson. Now, I don't think
that's your worst one even yet, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, here's why. Because
it always happens at number 3, because 3 was Brady last.
If he isn't your number 2, because I'm telling you right now, there's only 2 guys that are number 2. 1 and 2.
There's reasons why. Because with Adrian Peterson, the things that I absolutely could never get over. 1, he's not a good receiver at all. And yes, he was asked to do that, but he could never carry that mantle. He doesn't have good hands. And 3, he's had fumbling problems his whole career. The other guys high on this list don't have nearly as many fumbling problems as he does. That has always been a knock against his talent, and I cannot ignore that. I could never ignore that. His running
other running back,
phenomenal, but I can't ignore those two the negatives to his skill set. I can't.
But he's such a special talent that every other running back in the football who fumbles the ball even close to as much as he does, they lose their job pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, but that's why
he's the only guy that they say he's this special talent, such a special talent that we're gonna let this guy drop the football as much as he does because he does so much more with the football in his hand. I think you're crazy for having him outside. You're fucking.
I've been consistent when it comes to Adrian Peterson. I don't think people ignore all that. And I get it. He is phenomenal when it comes to running. But to me, fumbling to me is the worst thing you can do as a running back. Fumbling, you can't do that. And him having fumbling issues, that never sat well with me. And if you're not versatile, it's hard when I'm splitting hairs here with the rest of the guys in my top three. I can't put him above those other guys.
Adrian Peterson on my list as well. I'm pretty sure he's in Chrome's. So my list, the top four that's left, two are already in the Hall of Fame, and the other two are future. To me, should be first ballot Hall of Famers. And we heard Chrome talk about his number 5, Lesean McCoy, and I kind of hyped up my number 4 when I talking about the elite trait. This guy's elite trait is just availability, consistency, flying under the radar. My number 4 is Frank Gore. He's been doing it since the U.
I had Frank pretty high, and he slowly worked his way down my list just because of volume.
Right.
But I have no issue of you having Frank Gore at 3, 4, 5, whatever. You could have him anywhere on this list outside of 1 and 2, and I'd have no issue with it, just so you know. At one point, he was my number 4 on my list. I slowly worked him off.
See, he did the opposite for me. He worked his way up. When I started making the cases in my mind against for Frank Gore versus this person, I'm like, well, Frank Gore was doing it when Alex Smith as soon as Alex Smith got there. Frank Gore was doing it all the way through Colin Kaepernick. No matter what system was, we all can see Jim Harbaugh is a horrible offensive coach. Horrible. Frank Gore was still putting up numbers. He was in Buffalo the last 2 or 3 years, still putting up numbers. Went to Indy for a couple of years, put up
Miami.
Numbers.
He put up numbers with Miami.
And he's been doing it since college, man. He's been doing it since college.
The only place he didn't put up numbers is Philadelphia.
Thanks, Chip.
Eagles great. Eagles great, man.
Just take Ryan Matthews out and insert Frank Gore.
It would have been amazing. And Ryan Matthews. Matthews was decent while he was here.
He was decent. He was good.
He was hurt a lot.
Do you guys think if we sign Gore, do you think we still get DeMarco?
Yes.
You still think?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm so sure.
Because I just think that's because DeMarco and Ryan weren't that far off. As far as running styles, anyway, I think Chip just wanted that. I think he kind of wanted to stick it to Dallas and just prove everybody wrong. So he signed DeMarco anyway when we really didn't need him. So I think that still would have happened inevitably anyway.
Because he signed Ryan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he sign Ryan Matthews after DeMarco, or was it right before?
Yes.
It was after.
After.
Okay. Yeah. So, it's neither here or there. I always wonder that if Gore had stayed, what would have happened? But. No.
But yeah, that's my 4.
No problem with your 4th, Pete.
He has Adrian Peterson 4. I don't.
Where are we at?
I don't need, it's me.
It's Chuck's. It's Chrome's 4th.
No, it's my 3rd. I did my 4th. My 4th was Lesean McCoy.
Yes,
my 3rd. This is where I place Edgerrin James at. You guys kind of already talked about him enough. Guy's a Hall of Famer, without question. And to me, there was 3 guys and everybody else, and that's where I had no question about my top 3 guys. Everything after that's where a lot of the swapping in and out and moving around started happening. I thought we were splitting hairs. I think Chuck's crazy for having Adrian Peterson outside of the top 3.
I've always thought that way about him.
Anyway, Edgerrin James, and we'll move on with that because we've talked about him at length already. Pete, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is the OG, all versatile back before my number 1 and number 2, and that's Marshall Faulk. I don't know really. I mean, a good guy off the field. Seems to be. It's kind of. It's questionable.
We don't know. We don't know now.
Highly questionable. But
I would have not characterized that yet until I know. But you know what I'll say, Pete? Why he's not on my list?
Good.
Real quick.
He's not on your list at all?
I look at the bulk of his career of the 90s. I feel like he was so when I'm looking at the 2000s to now, we're looking at a 20-year window. his prime was kind of, to me, prior to that. Maybe like the first year or two in the 2000s. But that's the only reason he's not on my list. Because if that was the case, he would have been within the top 4. But I left him off because I look at his bulk of his career where he was really highly successful. To me, I look at him more as a 90s guy.
Okay. I mean, for me, it was the years he had with the Rams and St. Louis.
They were, I hear you.
And they were just so monumental. And he just picked up from what he was doing in Indy and just kept that train rolling. You know what I mean? And never really was hurt. He doesn't seem like he seems like he's in good health now. Doesn't seem banged up, you know, and he just did it all. Yeah. I mean, he really could won. He was one of the first running back that won the wide receiver routes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's why I love him. He was with the Rams from 99 to 2005. So I mean, the bulk of his successful years were in the 2000s. That's funny because I didn't even when I first learned about Marshall Faulk, I didn't even realize he was originally with the Colts until like a little later on. But that's how special he was with the Rams.
That's what I'm saying though. So like, it's not like he was just a guy with the Colts. You know, when I look at the body of work from his period with the Colts and then those first 2 or 3 years with the Rams, that kind of goes into the 2000s. But he was around since what? 94. I just looked up to make sure I had the year right. He's been around since 94, and he was a top back while he was with the Colts. So to me, I look at his career, the bulk of it, and I would put him, if we were doing the 90s, he's at the top of the list. If I was basing it on those 1 or 2 years, absolutely. But he's just a guy I look at differently because he's not a guy that had 3 years of great success and then had injury issues. He's a guy that was great before he got there. He's been great. He was great almost his entire career. And for that reason alone, it's the only reason I didn't include him on this list. But I don't hate you guys for putting him on there. I'm not saying, I think you're ridiculous. I mean, he's, like I said, if I have him on here, easily, I would probably bump my 3 back to my 4, Edgerrin James back to my 4, and probably slide him in at the same spot at number 3.
Okay.
I just look at him I look at the entirety of the guy's career. And he
the
played a lot in the
90s,
the majority of the 90s.
Right. And the one thing about Marshall Faulk that he revolutionized the position.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, the modern running back position that we see now,
that's him. He's
people
the prototype.
Tried to do it in 2000. Everybody's looking for their Marshall Faulk.
He's a prototype.
I mean, we had it with Westbrook for a little bit. Hopefully, we have it with Sanders. Lesean McCoy never gave us that Eagles respectively out of the backfield as far as the passing game, but the running game he kind of did as well. But I mean, it just the way he revolutionized, like you said, Chrome, he 94 to 99, 5 years, 5 or 6 seasons, however you want to look at it with Indy, and then the next 6, it never tapered off. I forget why. I forget that he didn't retire due to injury. He just didn't. I think he kind of walked away from the game, still kind of being productive a little bit.
I think his oh boy, where is that? His last season he did off a little bit. He had 774 rushing and 310 receiving in 14 games. So I mean a little bit. I mean that's still like decent running back production. He's not giving you nothing. So
I mean when you just look at his list of accolades, you know, obviously we know what he did. And I think that's the thing is people remember those like really, especially those 2 years specifically with the Rams where they made title runs, that people look at those years and that's why he's so associated with them. But he had a lot of accolades when he was with Indy that people just forget about. It's like Chuck said, I forgot that he was with Indianapolis at one point because, you know, he tapered off a decent amount those last couple of years. Yeah, he really stopped being elite after around 2002, 2003.
Right.
So he had a few years where, you know, I'm not saying he fell off the cliff, but he started to decline a little bit.
A smidge.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler with Indianapolis even before it, including his rookie year. So
very decorated, yeah. And we talk about, like, with him, the thing that stands out that always gets me is they always talk about part of the reason why he was able to be that revolutionary type of running back and be a receiver is because he was so damn smart. I think they always speak about how, like, he knew the playbook so well. His awareness was top notch. Like, you don't hear a lot about running back and their IQs, but with the ones that you do hear about, that stands out. So I think that's his IQ, football IQ, and just intelligence contributed to a lot of his success and why he was able to be so versatile.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm at my 3, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my 3, and this is the last shocker, I promise. But my top 5 is consistent based on everything that I've said for a long time. I've always talked about Adrian Peterson and his flaws, and that's why I'm not as high on him. And number 3, I've said how great this guy is and how much I love his talent. He's a generational talent. And at 3, I put Saquon. Saquon is the 3rd most talented running back in the past 20 years. And you talk about just talent. Like, he, with no very any offensive line, he led the league his rookie year in yards.
Chucks, what happened to leaving my boys off the list, Chucks? Who wouldn't have known that if we were going that route, that Saquon, I'm surprised that he ain't number 1. And then Miles is number 2.
Well, because
I'm shocked by it.
Because, to be fair, he still has work to do when it comes to vision. He's still mostly athlete. So his vision is not up to par as much as the other 2 guys ahead of him. So, I mean, you're talking about just physical talent. He's a generational guy. And again, I'm not talking about longevity. There's a lot of people that think my list is bogus. But again, I'm not talking about career stats or career accomplishments. I'm talking about what I've seen on the field. And if you compare his talent right now to that of any running back past 20 years, there's a reason why he's so highly regarded. And I have him at, like, he literally does everything. Receive, he catches the ball, pass blocks. He's not only a power back, but he's a finesse back. As elusive as they come, we talk about, elusiveness and Lesean McCoy. But Saquon does it all. He's a phenomenon, a physical specimen. And so he's number 3.
Okay.
Stretch. That's a reach.
Don, stupid as hell. I mean, wow. I can see your train of thought. I thought I was going to be more shocked. But no, I mean, I prepared myself after last week that I come in more prepared for Chuck's top 10.
See, like, I don't go conventional. Like, that's the thing with me, and you guys should know.
We know that.
I don't go with conventional thinking. I don't care. I really don't care about stats. When it comes to stats, I look at context. Yeah. And people my criteria for my list is different. People want to keep talking. Like Yusuf says, AP was a generational talent. I'm not saying he wasn't. But if you're talking about who would you rather build a team with, like what you said, Pete, if they're all rookies, all right, who would you build a team with? AP or Saquon? I'm going Saquon because Saquon does it all and he doesn't have the fumbling problems that AP does. That's personally me. Now, if you're someone who's going to run AP 40 times a game and you don't care about his passing or his fumbling, then I get it. We'll pick AP. And it's close. I never said it wasn't close. But if you're someone who wants a multi-dimensional weapon, then the better guy is Barkley. The better talent is Barkley over AP because on 3rd down when you're trying to pass the ball, AP is coming off the field. AP is also going to cough up the ball a lot more than Saquon has shown in his short career.
True. I mean, I get it, but like this, to answer your question, if I had a choice between Saquon and AP, if I have a good defense, I'm taking AP. If I have a good defense that I believe in, I could trust that because I'm going to account for his fumbling. But I mean, we're talking. Now, listen, I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. Saquon fast as hell, but AP when he was coming out was just as fast.
Yeah.
That breakaway speed. So
absolutely.
And dare I say, AP's been more durable. That's the other thing. I mean, Saquon's already kind of got nicked up. I get it, a high ankle sprain can happen to anybody, but I don't want to feel like I'm taking away from Saquon.
But also,
Saquon's
how long did it take Barkley to come back from a freaking high ankle sprain?
Well, AP never had to come back from because he never had one. The only thing he's had was an ACL.
Well, he can't
fault him for that.
When someone has a high ankle sprain, how long does it usually take? Does it usually take him to heal? And then how long did it take for Saquon to come back and play? He's a freak of nature. And I think that people are just because he hasn't been playing as long as AP, and AP is looked at as a god, that it's a travesty that I think Saquon is a better talent than AP. Give me the all-around skill set. And they're both freaks of nature, but I'm this high on Saquon, and I've just been consistent.
I mean, it's not that it's a travesty. It's just, I mean, you're really knocking AP for not being able to catch the ball, but it's almost sounds like you're not giving him full credit for the elite traits that he does have. So do you really believe in your mind that Saquon can do everything AP can do and more?
In terms of everything that the running back position asks for?
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of like catching the ball.
You can't.
Yeah.
His vision is 5 times better than Saquon.
Yes. No, I'm not denying that.
Okay, but I just asked if you think he could do everything that AP could do and better. You say, but his vision is nowhere near as good. As a running back, you need that. Once again, I don't want to sound like how some people may be off screen screaming and ready to break their computer and people and the fans at home and the fam at home. I don't want to do that, but I get your point. I don't know, man, because I had Saquon 6, but I don't think I couldn't have put him this high because I feel like I can't give the young fella that yet until we see a little bit more. There's more consistency. Because I think it's only going to get better.
I get it, but for 2 years he's been in the league.
The Hall of Fame guy. We're crowning a guy over a Hall of Fame guy.
He's a Hall of Fame guy because he's at the end of his career. That's not my criteria here.
But we were talking about, let's talk durability though. AP missed 3 games in his first 3 seasons, and he missed 3 games last year in only his second season. So let's talk durability. Like, that's another thing. You talk about his vision and this and that. Like, the vision is a big deal on the football field.
But at the beginning of the show, I'm not factoring durability. I'm not looking at durability. If I was, then he'd be lower. He would be lower. I said at the beginning of the show, I'm not factoring in durability. I'm just strictly talent.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Brian. Ryan.
Thanks.
I'm going to break my computer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome Howie Roseman to the show. Hey, Howie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm trying to take notes over here because Jesus. Why are we not factoring in durability?
Because I just said I'm looking just off the talent.
No. I heard you. My question is why?
Because I wanted to do my list that way, to just talk about the most talented running backs.
But let's talk about
the same criteria. If I wanted to formulate my list with the same criteria as everyone else, I would have done it, and Saquon wouldn't be this high. But I wanted to approach it differently and see how different my list could be if I just base it off of talent. So if I'm just basing off talent, I think Saquon's a better talent than AP.
See, I think you can take durability off the table when we're talking like the 6 through 10, because there are certain guys who deserve a mention. But when you're talking about the top of the top 5, top 3, top 2, when you're talking about those guys, you have to factor in durability, specifically for the fact that it doesn't matter how talented guys are. Sometimes they can be so overly talented that they take more risks on the field, and they end up not being able to stay on the football field. And then that affects.
Okay, so if
look at Michael Vick. Like, Michael Vick could have been possibly, talent-wise, Michael Vick might be one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. And to me, he's a Hall of Fame talent. But Michael Vick isn't making a top 5 in any quarterback list for me, for the simple fact that his style was so reckless that he had injury issues that slowed him up at certain times, and that's aside from the dogfighting stuff too.
Well, he wasn't
He had
also-
off the field
he
issues.
wasn't a great
You have to
passer.
factor in playing style and the durability factor. Adrian Peterson has been on the field for his first, let me count. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. His first 7 years, he played 14 or more games. Oh, no, 2011, he only played 12. But he played 14 or more in every other year. He got hurt in 14. 15, he played 16 games. Got in trouble. And then, I mean, look at him now. Look at his age. He has played 16 and 15 games. At his age now, he's still playing full seasons.
That's
and
great.
producing
I'm not
because of his
denying that.
talent and his durability. You
Yeah,
can't
I'm
not
not-
factor that in.
You guys,
the
okay,
overall great
you
thing.
guys really, you were so hell bent on making your. If you want to force me to factor in durability, then so be it. Then say it at the beginning say at the beginning of the show, I made it clear that I'm not factoring durability.
I'm not.
So if you want me to factor in durability, then yes, AP is better than Saquon. He's higher on the list.
Nobody
Are you guys
is
happy?
making you.
Because apparently I made it so clear, but apparently now
nobody's gonna make you do your list
Right.
the way that you want to do it. But when you're talking about the elite of the elite, and you say that a Hall of Fame guy who's been on the field his entire career and has been the elite running back, a generational talent, just like Saquon is perceived to be a generational talent. One is perceived to be one is one. That's a huge factor and a huge difference.
Okay, cool. But
So, you can't expect us not to give you crap for it.
Saquon is perceived to be one because his career is only 2 years old. If you're looking at just the talent,
I can't put a guy who is perceived to be something over a guy that is.
But that's
how
the
many
way I formulate
years?
my list, my ranking is because of what I see on the field. If you're taking everyone, it's a hypothetical subjective thing. I get it. But if you were to take everyone as a rookie and just formulate that out, what is their talent level?
I mean,
how would you build? That's what I'm going it off of.
So I mean, I get what you're saying, Chuck. And once again, I understand. I personally, this is just me personally. If you look at when AP was coming out to when Saquon was coming out, I think the media hype was different. I think if AP and Saquon were coming out in the same draft,
social media was definitely because social media was
right.
Yeah,
we didn't get to see how much AP can squat. We didn't get to see how much AP can bench. We didn't get to see AP on the cover of ESPN Naked Magazine and look at and turn his name into Saquon. You feel what I'm saying? We didn't get to see all that. I just think, me personally, I think you're knocking him. So I think you're knocking him a peg down because he just didn't catch the ball out of the backfield in his fumble issue. But I think talent. Yeah. But so on that's a skill set. But if you look at raw talent, I can't give Saquon the nod over AP. To me, it's almost even. That's my only thing. And you keep saying talent. I think that's why Chrome is picking at that argument from that lane. So we can't assume talent if it's equal, and yet he can't catch the ball out of the backfield. That's two different things. That's all I'm saying.
I guess I get what you're saying, but again, it goes to my whole premise that I said earlier that when I look at a running back skill set and talent, I'm also I value versatility and what they can do and taking care of the football. I value that maybe a lot more than other people do, and maybe that's why I have Saquon this high, and that's fine. Like I don't mind and I said 3 and 4, Peterson and Saquon is like splitting hairs to me. But everyone wants to forget that I said that and just say, "Oh, like you automatically I'm splitting hairs here." But if I'm going to stay true to how I evaluate running backs, how I always have, that the fumbling and the catching, it's a bigger knock on how I see it than probably most people. But I'm going to stay consistent to that because that's how I've always done it. But if you want to force me to factor in everything else and that fine. Then
no, I don't want you to change. I don't want you to feel like pressure and to change it. I get it. You know what I mean? I even forgot that we still got 2 more. You still got 2 more left.
Yeah. I mean,
so
that's the thing. We're not pressuring you to do nothing, man. But
you
can't expect us not. You can't expect us.
Well, you have to. Well, your words were you have to factor in injury when it comes to the top 5. You kind of those were your words.
When you're talking about the top, I think that's a common sense thing. If you choose not to use the common sense thing, when we're talking about who the best of the best is, that's your decision. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, you can't expect us to give you flack for it when you're talking about the top 2, 3, or 4 guys. Well, even take out 4. The top 3 guys, to me, should be no-brainers. To me, you got to have a track record of success and the longevity, and you have to be durable. Because that, to me, everybody else, like I said, Priest Holmes, to me, if we're going on talent alone, could have been a guy who would have been considered to go even higher than any of us had. Like, there's certain guys that could get that kind of a nod. Ricky Williams was a special talent at the time when he played. But I'm not just going to go on that when we're talking about the top 3 guys. Like, you have to factor in the fact that there's a light. That's just not – it's not sensible to me to take out –
Say that at the beginning of the show when I said – say that in the beginning of the show when I said I don't factor in length of time. I said it numerous times, and it was never a problem.
I'm glad that you did it because we had a fun conversation.
So who's your number 2? Who's your number 2?
Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson is my number 2. I don't even think we need to have this argument already because we just literally talked at length about Adrian Peterson. So I'm gonna go with Adrian Peterson as my number 2.
So, and for me, I agree with Chuck's from the all-around aspect. That's why Adrian Peterson is also my number 2 as well. So, and now, Chuck's, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know where you're going with this, but
I swear to God,
no,
I love you, bro.
Our number,
the top 2 shouldn't be a surprise from here on out.
This is what I'm gonna tell.
I'm surprised.
This is one thing I'm gonna say. If we don't all have the same number 1, then whoever doesn't, because I know that me and Pete have the same number 1.
Don't worry.
If you don't have the same number 1 as us, Chuck,
don't worry.
You will lose every argument ever.
Do you want me to just say my 2 and 1 so we can get it over with?
Go your 2, and then we'll let you start off with 1.
Your number 2 will set up your number 1.
Well, if I say my number 2, you'll know who my number 1 is. That's what I said. Okay. So number 2 is Marshall Faulk for all the reasons we said earlier.
Okay.
And then number 1 is LT.
Okay.
That's why Pete.
At least
you remember
we have the consensus number 1.
Pete, you remember last week toward the end of the show, you made a remark like, "Oh, we know who the top 2 should be," and I said, "Oh, I know who number 1 is." Like, remember that's what I was saying. Like,
you mean you guys don't have Fred Taylor at number 1?
No. He deserves to be in the top 20, maybe top 15.
I'm kidding, by the way.
I know.
No, I'm kidding, by the way.
I know.
He's a fringe guy. Like, I actually put him closer to 15.
Yeah, he's one of the fringe guys.
He played for a real shitty organization for a long time, and he was an elite running back. He was a special talent. So, I mean, all right. So we consensus-wise, LaDainian Tomlinson.
LT.
Like, for me, LT is a top 5 of all time easily. Might be top 3 or 4 for me. So, I mean, I think that we can all agree with that. There's him and everybody else.
It's, dude, like, when you look at LT's career, it's just
mind-boggling, man.
It's everything. 100 receptions in 2002 or 2003. The from the running the ball to catching the ball. I mean, it's just his vision. It's just I can't even put it into words. Like, I can't really think of any other position or any other player. If we look at the 2000s outside of Brady, for me, that it's really just a no-brainer when you pull up this list. I will have a much harder time if we do wide receivers to come up with the consensus number 1 as easy it was for me to write down 1, LaDainian Tomlinson, and then fill in 2 through 10.
Yeah.
For me personally.
Yeah.
No, LT was, like you talk about, he was, what I love about him too is that he was measurables 5'10", 220 something, and you would not expect that from his stature, but he was thick. We talk about thick, Pete. We got thick, and he had muscle, man. Like, he was thickly built, and he wasn't just an elusive guy. He had power. Like, he would run over guys That stiff arm of his with his offhand, amazing. Like running, everything. It's hard to really put like I wanted to find a reason to put Marshall Faulk ahead of him, but I just couldn't. Like I couldn't when it comes down to it. So yeah, LT number one.
I would say this. I wanted at a point, I was ready to trade Deuce and Westbrook for LT. Because I figured if Reed had LT with McNabb, that would put us over the top. That would put us.
I would have given anything for him.
There are a lot of
for him.
There are a lot of teams that would have done anything for him. But yeah, he's there. So I did. Who is it? Don keeps bringing him up. I think it's the second time I've seen him, but he keeps talking about Reggie Bush, and one of his questions were, and we can use this to get into conversation of the other guys that didn't make the team, didn't make our list. But Reggie Bush, he asked, do we see him as the biggest running back bust ever in the past 20 years?
No, because he was good. Trent Richardson would be the biggest bust, probably. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I'd say Trent. I'd say Trent.
Yeah.
I think with Reggie Bush, the thing though is I still think I still kind of consider him a bust though, because when he came into the league, everyone saw him as that next great guy. Everyone saw him as like the next Reggie Bush. Barry Sanders. But to me, when I saw him, I saw the same issues that I kind of did about Christian McCaffrey when he was coming out, which made me skeptical. But Christian McCaffrey did what Reggie Bush couldn't do, and Christian McCaffrey was able to add muscle and get better at running between the tackles. Reggie Bush never did that. He relied on his ability in space way too much, and he never reached that level. He never improved his vision. He never attacked enough muscle to be that between tackles runner that can carry the load. And so to me, like all that hype, you talk about Pete, like social media was different back then. I remember everyone back in that draft, everyone was hyping up Reggie Bush. Everyone was saying that he was so up, and then he never panned out to be the type of running back that everyone thought he would be. And so I do kind of see him as a bust in that regard, but yeah, I wouldn't say he's the biggest bust.
Right. For me, when it comes to Reggie Bush, it was the first time, because that was from 2005-ish. So when I first started noticing like the main difference between the college game and the NFL game, and where I would dare say it just, I wouldn't say Reggie Bush was a bust. He was a bust in with the traditional thought processes of a running back at that time, because he was not that. Even coming out of USC, he wasn't running the ball out of the backfield on that. Reggie Bush coming out now, oh my God. Like if Reggie Bush was coming into the league now as a rookie with these offenses, if you put him on like an Arizona, you put him with New Orleans now and with Sean Payton
ahead of his time.
Yes, exactly. Very well ahead of his time, to where the league just, the thought processes of the offensive minds in the NFL at that time, just they really weren't ready to use Reggie to his best ability. They tried to fit. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and honestly, Pete, like that's a great point, because you look at a lot of these head coaches and these coaches now, the league is so much younger in terms of the coaching ranks. A lot of these guys were kids watching Reggie Bush in college and seeing the way that he played, who are now implementing that style of play. When Reggie Bush came in, it was still like the old timers club in a lot of these coaching staffs, which, it's a shame for Reggie Bush because he was so ahead of his league. But in a lot of ways, again, I look at a guy like him and I feel like he inspired this generation to change the way that they run their offenses. And really, in a lot of ways, he's a guy, we talk about Marshall Faulk. And maybe Reggie doesn't have the numbers that a guy like Marshall Faulk does. Reggie had some good years with the Saints and with the Dolphins, but I still think that he's a guy who evolved the position in a lot of ways.
He did.
Anyway, I think sorry, go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, if you put Reggie, if you would have transitioned in '05, if the Rams would have transitioned from Marshall Faulk to Reggie Bush with Mike Martz, different story. Different story.
Agreed.
Reggie Bush
Agreed.
may make this list, but for him to go from there, I think he went straight to New Orleans was his first team,
Right.
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they had Deuce there already. They had Deuce McAllister.
Deuce
So
McAllister
he-
hit him the 1-2 punch. Yeah.
right, he already came in as being not so much the feature back. He wasn't. It wasn't really an offense that was catered around him, especially when it comes from the backfield, the running back room.
I think that it's interesting you say that if the Rams had went from Marshall Faulk to Reggie Bush, like it's hard for me to say that because of what the point I made about Reggie Bush before is that he never developed enough as a runner to carry the load. And see, like with like when you talk about like versatile backs like that, to me, like the three that come to mind are Faulk and then Westbrook and then McCaffrey. With Reggie Bush, I see him right now. I compare him to I kind of compare him to what Alvin Kamara is right now. Like we talked about it weeks ago when we had our running back draft with with the other guys. And with Kamara, we always feel like he's an elite when he's paired with someone. And so Reggie Bush was paired with Deuce McAllister, and Reggie Bush had his role, and that was great. And Kamara was elite when he was paired with Mark Ingram, but now we're not so sure if he's that focal point type of running back. Maybe he is, but I think what they have similar is that Kamara has to learn how to carry that load and be a runner to the point where he can be true, like he can be counted on in both areas. Like with Marshall, we already know he was a great, like an elite runner. With Westbrook, by the time he was the 2006 season, he became an elite runner and carried the load there, and that made him a true dual threat. With Bush, it never got to that point. He was never that elite runner to make him a true dual threat. And Kamara is kind of similar in my eyes, where let's see you take that next step. Let's see you be able to carry that load and be a runner so that you can be that elite dual threat that can beat teams on the ground and through the air.
Yeah.
Very well said. What was more of a guys that didn't make the list that would be polarizing? That some
there are a lot of names. I mean,
I think we talked about a lot of them though.
Yeah, I already said Zeke and Jamal were my next two after my top 10. So like for the rest of them, I'm not gonna say them in ranking order, just random. I mean, you have guys like David Johnson. Frank Gore was already in your rankings. Matt Forte, you talked about. We already talked about Chris Johnson.
Arian Foster was named.
Arian Foster, yes. Arian Foster.
Amon Green is another name of a guy.
Amon Green, yeah. Maurice Jones-Drew, Jerome Bettis. Even though most of his career was early on before 2000, but Jerome Bettis, you already mentioned Sean Alexander. We talked about Ricky Williams, Priest Holmes. So those are the guys that like I definitely considered, and it's tough to really rank them because there's so many good guys. There's just so many.
Willie Parker is another name of a guy who could have been thrown into the mix. A lot of really good running backs over that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think, and at that time, when we look at like 2000 to 2012, the running back just meant more.
Yeah.
To a team's offense. It was more of an integral part to the offense. It was more centered around that. It wasn't really a running back by committee. May have had two running backs, but never three like we see now. I mean, Kansas City rolled in with Damian. Look, all right, Kyle Shanahan and San Fran, he had Jared McKinnon, Raheem Mostert, and Matt Breida. You know what I mean? And he was perfectly fine with that. This split time, because I think as we evolve and as the league evolved, they just really realized, like, listen, these running backs want to get paid on a second contract, and the analytics show that their bodies break down. That's why, I mean, that's why AP is an anomaly, because he's been in the league for over 10 years and he's still doing it, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, him, Gore, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, like, if you look at if you Google this, do yards from scrimmage leaders by season, and you go to I forget what site it was, but if you do that and you just click each season to see who are the leaders in yards from scrimmage. What's really interesting is when you get to I want to say 2010, 2011, because all the way from 2000 to that point, 2010, 2011, a lot of those leaders, in the top 10, it's dominated by running backs. So their running backs were the focal point, getting most yards, rushing and receiving. But once you get to 11, 12, there's a trend where it's less and less running backs. I mean, I think one of the years, I think it might have been 2012, I could be wrong, where in the top 10 or 15, there were only 3 running backs that were in the top 10 to 15 in yards from scrimmage leaders. Only 3. The rest were wide receivers. So it's crazy how that shifted. But then when you start to get to the last few years from 2015 or 16 to now, you're starting to see more and more. You're starting to see, not like it was before, but now you're starting to see more of the lead backs. You're starting to see more because now you have CMC, Saquon, Zeke, Le'Veon before he was traded, David Johnson. You're starting to see a little bit more running backs lead the league in lead the league in yards from scrimmage. So it's kind of weird that now we've reached a point where it's kind of halfway between what it was for that first decade of 2000s and what it was between 2010 and 2015. Because 2010 and 2015, it was all running back by committee. There were hardly any teams running with just one guy. But over the past few years, you're starting to see that trend buckle up a little bit. But it's just something neat that I saw as I was doing more research.
Yeah. So Yusef is he's clamoring for an answer here, Chucks.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's Saquon's is different. Zeke is more of an all around talent that just kind of he just does it, but it's not flashy, but he's a top athlete. Where Saquon has a couple of runs every game where it's just I don't know if you could do that. But this question isn't posed for me, so it's posed for you. So Chucks, you have the floor to go ahead and answer Mr. Yusef.
This is again, Yusef. You can disagree with me, but I've been consistent. I said weeks ago on the show, CMC and Saquon to me are generational talents that are playing right now. Zeke is at the top of that next tier after them, where he's elite. But I don't put them in this. I don't put Zeke in the same tier as Saquon and CMC. That's just because I have CMC and Saquon in such high regard. They're generational talents. I don't think Zeke is a generational talent. And if I remember correctly, I don't know if it was you, Peter, or one other person that agreed with me when I said it, but that's why Zeke is at 11 on my list and Saquon is 3, because there are so many other running backs in between them on my list that I think are just more talented than Zeke. It really is. But I don't mean that in disrespect to Zeke. Again, this list was very hard, very difficult for me. At one point, I had Zeke at number 7. I really did. I had him as high as number 7 at one point. But it's very tough to split hairs, and so that's why Zeke is lower. But I don't see Zeke in the same tier as Saquon and CMC.
That's true. That's true, Prongers. I could see Zeke being the best pass blocker in the league, but if you put Saquon on Dallas, 2 things. Saquon off the field is way cleaner than Zeke.
Yeah.
Doesn't do the dumb shit off the field, more settled. And I mean, listen, I get it, but in a foot race, I'm taking Saquon to beat Zeke. So you talk about yards, and you see what Saquon is doing in New York. And I mean, hell, listen, man, Dallas fans don't want to admit it, but shit, we bottled up Zeke in week 16 last year.
Yeah.
We tried in 17 with the same line and a worse offensive line, and look what happened. We got the peace sign chucked up at us. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm just calling a spade. I see it for what it is. Do I think Zeke is a better pass blocker and pass pro? Yes, I get that. But I feel like this: if Jason Witten was still the coach of the Dallas Cowboys and he had Saquon in that backfield, I bet you they wouldn't be throwing that son bitch 30, 40 times either. I guarantee you that.
With Saquon, like realize, guys, remember how horrible the Giants offensive line has been? Saquon in his rookie year had 1,307 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry. 5 yards a carry, and then also had 721 yards receiving. I mean, like that's his rookie year with a horrible offensive line. And then in an injury-riddled, he missed 3 games, and then when he came back, he wasn't the same. He still had 1,003 yards rushing. He still had 438 yards receiving. Like, and he was his average yards per carry 4.6, behind a horrible offensive line and behind with being injury-riddled for half the year. Like that's freak of nature type of crap right there from Saquon.
Yeah. With Saquon, I just think you don't want it to become a trend of like nagging injury here, nagging injury there. It's just not. I don't want to speak it into existence. So hopefully it's not. I will say this though. There is a chance. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if we just do the 2020s or 2015 to 25, number 26 could be on this list. I'm just going to throw that out there. Chuck, you ain't even had to do it. I'll do it for you. I'm a firm believer in number 26. If he can hit his ceiling, boy, oh boy. He's got
elite potential, man. He was like, I for those who don't know, and like the reason why I was so high on Miles is because in Penn State, people forget when he was recruited, he was a 5-star recruit out of high school. 5-star recruit, one of the top recruits in the whole country. So it's not like this guy who just came out of nowhere. No, he's been highly recruited since high school. And when it comes to like training, like people like we marvel at Saquon and what he's able to do in like the weight room and his workouts and his timings and everything, measurables. People don't realize that even though Saquon was setting records at Penn State for all of that stuff, Miles wasn't too far behind him. So like Miles was putting up great measurables, weight room numbers, like all of that stuff right behind Saquon. And so Miles in his own right is also an elite athlete. We've seen him. Remember the Redskins game? Like he puts on the burners and he is fast. That burst and acceleration is elite.
Let me ask you, Chucks. If you were putting your guys in, would Miles have made your top 10 list?
No, because Miles still is not a great. Miles is not. He still has work to do with vision. He still has.
Going to be worried about that one.
No, I'm being straight honest, and this is like, you guys think I am biased all the time. I really try not to be. But with Miles, if you want to talk about stuff he has to work on, he has to get stronger because he had too many times where he got shoestring tackled by the feet. Yeah. He has to get stronger, stronger lower half, and his vision has to be better. He got better as the year went on, and it finally got to a good enough level late in the year where he could be an impact player for the team. But it's still a work in progress where he has to get better with his footwork and being patient and knowing which holes to attack, especially in zone concepts. That's a work in progress for him.
I don't think you're biased all the time. I just think you're biased here.
So if he's not in your top 10, second part of the question, would he be in your top 15?
I don't know. I'd have to, because after I did that top 10, I just lumped a bunch of names together. I didn't really rank them. So I don't know. That's my honest to God answer. I don't know. He probably wouldn't be, because if I'm looking at some of these other guys, there are like a ton of really talented guys on there. So I don't know if I'd have Miles in the top 15. I really don't. I'd say probably not. Probably not.
That's the correct answer. Very good.
So 2 things. Mike Parker says, go ahead, Chrome.
I just want to answer. Yusuf asked me what my favorite cheesesteak in Philly is. Apparently,
we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
So Yusef, great question. I am an avid cheesesteak eater. I visited a number of places, and to me, it's not even close. Without question, without a shadow of a doubt, it's John's Roast Pork in South Philly.
My guy, yes.
Oh, Bruno,
Not
you
even
didn't
close.
either. Oh my God.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
John's roast pork. I haven't had a cheesesteak from them. I had a roast pork sandwich, which is phenomenal.
Which is also phenomenal.
You got to get both.
But
Double dip.
That's
both.
That's what's great is, yeah, first of all, when you go, you got to get one of each sandwich, one to eat now, one to eat later, or one you eat half now and half of the other one, and then you eat the other halves later.
Yep.
But that's what's great about it is it's not even called a cheesesteak place. It's John's Roast Pork. It's a gem. If you haven't gotten a chance to go there, it's in South Philly. I'm telling you right now, that's the place. If you're not from the area, I don't. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, and you get a chance to go to one cheesesteak place in the city of Philadelphia, I promise you, go to John's Roast Pork.
Yeah, we talked about different spots. And I had mentioned like if you're talking about top spots in Philly, there are a few that you could go with. John's Roast Pork is one of them. A lot of people swear on D'Alessandro's. I swear on Woodrow's on South Street. So like all three of them, honestly, you can't go wrong with.
Ishkabibbles is good. Ishkabibbles is also on. Yeah. Ishkabibbles 2 is on. Well, both of them were. 1 and 2.
Both are on South Street. Yeah.
Both are on South Street. They're really good. I'm not a hater on Pat's and Gino. Well, I don't like Pat's. I'm not a hater on Gino's like people are. Right. I think Gino's and Tony Luke's are fine. If people tell you, oh, don't go get one of those, they're the touristy places. Well, there's a reason why. They're good, but there are better cheesesteaks that you could get. And again, for me, I still haven't had one that's anything close to John's Pork. The one place I'll tell you not to go, I think it's crazy that people love it. Hell, I had Bill Alfonso talked about it on our show. He loves it. I don't know why people love it, but Jim's is the worst.
You are in agreement with all of us. Yes.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
It's soggy and like I don't mind a greasy cheesesteak, but I'm talking like it is so greasy. When you get a steak, so I used to work 2 blocks from Jim's. That's not much of a walk to go 2 blocks back to my work.
No.
And I would get the steak back to work, and it would be like I dropped it in a sink. The roll, and nothing to me. Here's the thing, boys, that makes a cheesesteak, okay?
Bread.
The thing that makes it obviously it's the meat and the stuff like that, but I'm telling you, you will never. The roll is everything on a cheesesteak.
He said that.
If
yes.
you have a shitty roll, or if it's a great roll, but it's soggy as shit and it's disgusting, your steak is ruined. And I'm telling you, Jim's. Ugh.
That's bad.
If anybody tells you to go there, tell them that some people who really have some knowledge told you that place is a dump.
Oh, it's horrible. Chrome, we said the same thing last week. I do not understand the hype over Jim's. People like when I see people say like Jim's like, but what are you doing? What are you doing? But the way like I broke it down last week is that like when you come to Philly for a Philly cheesesteak, you compared to anything outside the city or outside the area, of course, almost anything in Philly will be better. Like you're going to get good cheesesteaks in Philly 99% of the time. It's just that people talk about Pat's and Gino's. They're not the best. They're not the best. But if it's your first time in Philly and you want to see the sights, absolutely. Like I can't blame you for going to Pat's and Gino's because it is a tourist spot. You want to be able to say that you went. But
listen, and the sandwiches aren't bad. I don't care what anybody says.
They're not bad.
They're not bad. They're not the best.
Yeah.
They're not bad. And I think, too, when you go to Pat's and Gino's, and specifically Gino's, right, it is cosmetically appealing. They have the awesome sign. There's been so many famous things that, like, movies have been shot in that area and stuff. Like, it's when you go to there, it's the experience. But, like, let's not act like you're going to get, like, a shitty sandwich there. Like, some people will try to tell you.
Everybody's a Woodrow's truffle, though. I know that.
Oh,
everybody's a cheesesteak critic. Like, let's be real. And that's fine. Like, we all have our preferences we like to share. I just can't stand the people that are that are cheesesteak critic and snobs that they're like, Pat's and Gino's. Like, that's like getting like a fucking Like they
It's an
make it
insult.
sound like you're getting a cheesesteak from Subway. Like, shut the fuck up. Fucking
There's
idiot.
people coming out of town, they don't know no better. You know what I mean? Then we talked about South Jersey a little bit. We talked about the OG Katanos.
Yep.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Donkeys.
It is Prongers.
That's
Kevin
Prong,
said
by the
Donkeys.
way. He's now Pronger's best friend. Yes, you're absolutely right. To me, Jim's is the McDonald's of cheesesteaks.
Yes. Yeah.
And Chucks, we talked about the spot in Glassboro. I know you ordered Pete and Sons.
Yes.
How was it?
For a South Jersey spot, very, very good.
Where at?
Peter and Sons in Glassboro, very, very, very good.
Never been.
The one knock I will say is they got to stop being stingy with their cheese, because I ordered extra cheese on my steak, and I feel like I got one slice of cheese. So I'm gonna tell them next time, don't be stingy with that cheese, man. I need that cheese on my steak. But everything else, bread was really good. Steak was marinated very well. So that's one of the spots. All my coworkers got it. We all ordered steaks, and we were all very pleasantly surprised and happy with it. So we're gonna be ordering from them very often. Like, they're right down the street from my work, so they're great.
Yeah, it's a similar style to Tony Luke's, to where they don't chop up the steak. It's one piece. It's good. It's like Chuck said, they got to start being more how we say, generous with the cheese. I mean, it's a cheese steak, not just a steak cheese, you know what I'm saying? But for a South Jersey cheesesteak, it's very good. It's very, very good.
Yep. Yeah, Kevin mentioned
I'm a big fan of the combo cheese, the combo steak. Give me chicken and beef.
Chicken and beef.
chicken, beef, fried onions. Like, I want caramelized onions. I don't even say I want caramelized onions, fresh garlic, cook it all together.
That's a thing.
Pepper.
That's a thing.
What, garlic or the caramelized onions?
No, the combined chicken.
I just pay for it.
They have
extra meat chicken.
Yeah, they have.
Give me a cheesesteak, extra meat chicken.
Oh my God, Pete, you're a genius.
Yo.
You're a genius.
Another great cheesesteak in South Jersey, by the way, too. The Knicks in Collingswood.
Yep.
Okay.
That place.
I haven't had that, really.
Oh, yeah. That's another roast. It's a roast beef place, or roast pork, I think.
Running it down.
But their cheesesteaks are phenomenal, too. And I believe they actually have a location in the Reading terminal as well.
Really?
Which, by the way.
Oh, the Knicks. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. The Knicks in the Reading terminal is fucking phenomenal.
Yep. Roast pork.
So,
yeah. There's a spot near me called Jersey Jerry's. And that's really where I got the idea of the combo. They have a sandwich called the Meatster.
Nice.
It's beef steak, chicken steak, cheese, and bacon.
Oh my God.
Bro, but you gotta take a nap after you eat that shit.
What place is this from?
It's called Jersey Jerry's.
Because you're down by me. I don't even know where that's at. I gotta find that.
You know where it used to be the old Beacon Bike Shop back in the day. And right next to Favorites. They used to have Favorites, the sport betting place right on
yep.
It's right there.
Didn't it used to be Jersey Mike's or something?
It may have been. Now it's called Jersey Jerry's. They deliver too.
Ooh, I'm going for a drive sometime in the next couple of days.
Yo,
Yusuf asked if we've tried Hoagie Haven in Princeton. He says it's in mid Jersey. Don't know how far that is from you guys. I lived in that Central Jersey, New Brunswick area for 11 years after I went away to Rutgers for college. So I'm very familiar with that. Hoagie Haven, I know of. I have not tried, but I know of that place. I didn't know they have good steaks or sandwiches, but yeah, I've heard people say that place, but I've never been.
My thing is now I'm looking for the best meatball parmesan, but I think I'm gonna get it this Sunday when we
from Ralphie.
Are we still? Yeah, from Ralphie. So,
yep, I told him to bring them. I was just gonna say, Pete, you'll see them this Sunday.
Oh my!
Bring a nice seeded roll, some Parmesan cheese.
See, I'm not a seeded roll guy. I don't like the seeded roll.
For a meatball Parmesan, I am. Not for my cheese.
Okay, yeah, good point. Yeah, just for like any like hoagies, like any sandwiches. Like I'm not a seeded roll kind of guy.
Has anybody ever done the Gitanos challenge, by the way?
No.
We were gonna. Me and Aaron were gonna try
17-inch cheesesteak, bro. And it have you had Gitanos before?
Yes.
Pete?
Yeah.
It is like it's 17 inches and it's like thick.
Jesus.
It's girthy.
Girthy, thick. Something thick. Thick.
That is a thick, girthy, and long sandwich.
Oh man. Oh yeah, but only the OG Gitanos though. I like the one in Burlington. I remember I used to work in the Comcast call center out there in Forte. They used to have one around the corner, and this wasn't as good.
Yeah.
See, there's one around me. There's one around us that's not that bad, Chuck. It's pretty good.
Which one?
Okay.
Which Gitanos?
I think it's in Voorhees. I could be wrong about that.
Well, that one, Gitanos and Voorhees, I always pass by. I've got it from them, but they're not. Okay. Yeah, they're not as good as the OG one.
Are you guys a fan of pepperoni on your cheesesteak on occasion?
No.
Sometimes.
Listen, let's have this conversation. I think you guys are. I think that people are savages. I don't give it. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. I'm telling you right now, if you put fucking ketchup on your cheesesteak, you're a fucking savage because you ruined the cheesesteak.
I stopped a long time ago.
I don't care about ketchup on a fucking. Put it on a steak-'em, okay? But when you get a cheesesteak, to enjoy a cheesesteak as it's supposed to be eaten and enjoyed is the cheese and the grease. You throw fried onions on there if you like, or maybe a mushroom guy. That's acceptable. It's a little weird, but whatever. But it's the taste of like you're gonna eat the grease, right? The grease is like the kind of part of the taste of it. You know, you don't want it coated in grease like that scummy fucking Jim's cheesesteak. But you know, a little grease is where you get that flavor when that grease mixes in with the cheese. Oh, it's delicious. If you put fucking ketchup on your cheesesteak, you're a fucking savage, and you should never be allowed to eat one again.
If anything, for me, it's light, very light mayo. That's it.
And I think that's weird, but it's not like
I've tried that. I've tried it. I can't do it.
I stopped asking it because they always people don't know what the idea is of a light condiment. They don't know
it. Little bit.
No.
Yeah. That's
unless you're Wawa, because when you say light, they just don't put it on there. And then if you say like extra, it's like they put the whole fucking bottle on there. So
Tell me about it.
Oh, boys, this was fun, man.
This was next. I guess we'll wait for Kevin next week to talk about Cam.
Yeah, we got plenty of time to talk about Cam. I don't think it's that important to do it tonight. Yeah. I'm sure people are kind of cammed out, and I think more of the fun is let's bust Kevin's balls and let's see what he has. Because you already know he's backtracking on this, right? You guys are paying attention.
Right. Yeah, you saw in the chat.
We got private chat. For those listening out there, and I hope that Kevin sees this, we got a private chat for the show. And in the chat, we talk about all these things. It's like with the Antonio Brown thing where he said, I wouldn't touch him. I don't want this and that. And then at like 6 minutes after he was signed, this is the greatest thing and this and that. It's like, Kevin, scroll up 6 comments to what you said yesterday. All right. Well, now it's how many times has he said he doesn't want Cam? He doesn't think Cam fits and this and that. And now I'm not saying he's all on board, but he went from like he's 100% positive that he doesn't want Cam to now he's like, well, I'm not sure how to feel about it. Here we go. Backpedal talk already. So we ain't talking about that until Kevin gets on this damn show.
I'll tell you guys right now. You want to know why he's not on this show? You want to know the real
reason?
Because of this.
It's because he's running from me. You know why he's running from me? Last time, because I was off last week. The last time you guys had a show, which was 2 weeks ago when I was on, I sat here. Pete will test this. Mr. Chucks will test this. I came on, and I said, Mr. Kevin, Cam Newton is in your future. Oh, no, that's not true. Yes. No, it doesn't make sense. And I said, that's nice. Cam Newton is in your future because there is no risk. What's the worst that's going to happen? He stinks and you just
go and get Trevor Lawrence anyway? I said, I know day
Right.
one that Jarrett Stidham or whatever his name is, I know he stinks. I know he stinks day one. What's the worst that's
Sounds like
going
the
to
name
happen?
of a sandwich, bitch.
Cam has a good season and they make the playoffs? Like what?
Right.
So now this is 2 for 2, Kevin. I know you're watching because you're running from me. You're running from me. I warned you about Tom Brady going to Tampa.
Yes,
I
you did.
warned you. And I warned you about Cam Newton coming to New England. Stop running from me. Put some respect on my name.
Oh.
That's
Kevin
it.
came up with an excuse. What was his excuse? He was like, "Oh, we have a late meeting that day from my manager."
Yes, and ended up with the meeting or something.
Yeah, he
Well,
said that
maybe
as
he
soon as
does.
Cam Newton signed. Oh, by the way,
Listen.
guys, I'm not going to be on. You're running from me.
I will give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see if they do a beginning of the month meeting next month.
Oh, man.
And also, Pete, quick reminder. I know Chucks won't understand. Maybe Chucks knows about this, but since we won't be on the air tomorrow, to you, to all my fellow sports fans out there, happy Bobby Bonilla Day, buddy.
Ooh.
Happy
Is
Bobby
it-
Bonilla Day.
How many
one
more
of the
Bobby
greatest
Bonilla
holidays
days do
of the
we
year.
have?
So I think there was 25. Ooh, I think there's
So
still
essentially, Chuck, so we're
a
talking
lot
about Bobby
more.
Bonilla is the worst contract in MLB history, any sports history, where
You
Bobby
mentioned
Bonilla
this before. Chrome, you mentioned
he
this.
hasn't played in how long? He hasn't played in, I want to damn near say almost 20 years now, and still gets a check.
Yeah, Chrome mentioned this to me before. Yeah,
And
I remember.
it's tomorrow.
He's still getting paid.
It's
Okay, hold on.
ridiculous.
He retired. So he will be paid $1,193. Now he had retired in 2001.
Jesus Christ.
This kicked in 2009 of their deferred payments. So every July 1st until the year 2035, he will receive $1,193,248.20.
Jeez.
He will be 72 years old when he receives his final payment.
You kidding me? Well, you know his kids are set up for life.
Oh, can you imagine? Hey, you get like $2 million a year to do nothing.
That's crazy.
Smartest guy out there, man.
That's crazy. Damn,
That's ridiculous, bro.
maybe my son
brilliant.
can play baseball. Maybe. I won't know a damn thing about what to teach him, but maybe he should play baseball.
Be a left-handed reliever.
You know what? Before we hop off, in case I'm not on next week, guys, gut feeling right now: is there going to be football this year or no?
Nah.
I say no. I don't.
I say no.
I'm
I say
80% no.
I say that they're going to start the season, but they won't finish.
Right.
Really?
I think they're going to start a season, but I don't think they're going to be able to finish the season.
That would, to me, in my mind, that would be worse than no season.
Yep. Agreed.
Right? I know, completely agree. But I think I got this from Andrew Brandt, who was talking to our guys Cosell and Mosher, that from his gut instinct, and he's very plugged in with the league, and he's been around for a long time. The smart thing for the league to do would be not to have a season. If with player safety, if that's at the forefront, smart thing to do would be not to have a season. Too risky. But as all major sports are, they're business, so they're going to do everything they can to have a season. So his gut instinct, and it made perfect sense, was they're going to do everything they can, the league, to have that season, even if it means no training camp, no preseason. They're going to try at least to start week 1. But considering everything that's going on with all the trends, like it's hard to see them. Gut instinct is hard to see them finishing that season. So that's what I think is going to happen. But at the same time, I don't know. It could have. I don't know what to expect at this point.
I mean, every major medical expert and pandemic expert has said that the one sport that is nearly impossible to get off unless you literally put these people in a bubble like it's the fucking Truman Show is football.
Yeah.
The rosters are too big, and it's not just player safety. And oh, by the way, for all these idiots out here who say, they're young, they'll be healthy, they'll be fine, this and that, there's a rise statistically in cases of people who are asymptomatic or who aren't as sick, who are younger, but still end up developing lung damage, permanent lung damage. So, which is why they're talking about in these sports now, putting in these insurances that, you know, there's an insurance policy on the players for career-ending injuries due to COVID-related sicknesses. So, for you fucking idiots out there, and I don't care if I'm cursing a lot about it right now because I'm annoyed with these idiots. I've been seeing it way too much. For you morons out there who want to sit there and say, well, they're young and this and that, you're stupid and you don't pay attention to anything because these guys are at risk. Their families are at risk. The coaches are at risk. Like, you think if somebody on Kansas City gives that shit to Andy ain't a high risk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy might not live 2 weeks with that or live fucking 3 days with that shit.
It's so stupid. You know that Von Miller had said, because he got the virus, he is still experiencing problems with breathing. Von freaking Miller. Yep. So I don't want to hear like all these guys saying, oh, like people were attacking Malcolm Jenkins because he said, yeah, he was concerned. And people were like, he's, you know, these guys, Malcolm, they're making millions of dollars. They should be playing. We're really at that point in society where we're going to tell people that they have to play a sport and prioritize that over
their life,
over your health, just because they get paid millions. Like, no one said that that if they don't play, they're gonna get paid. No, I'm sure that if they don't play, they're not getting paid. But just because they get paid millions and you have to go to work, that means that's the same circumstance has to apply to them, that they have to go to work, that they should go to work. No, like, what is I don't understand where we are in a society where we are not prioritizing someone's health. And it's not it's not just Malcolm's health. It's not just Malcolm's health. What you just said, Chrome, if one person gets it, it endangers everyone. It's not, you're not only endangering, it's not like a football player or an athlete in any sport is going to injure their ACL and they can sit out and blah blah blah. No, if they get sick, they are putting everyone else around them at risk. It's not just about them, it's about everyone else that they come in contact with. So it's I don't understand that mindset that we are in society where people are willing to say, you athletes, you football players, you basketball players, you get paid millions of dollars, go play. Like, it boggles my mind. And, you know, I let myself, you know, I tempted myself, I fell into temptation. I got into arguments online about it and I got angry and people were like laughing at me like, oh, you're angry about this. Hell yeah, I'm angry about this because this is a serious situation. You're going to tell me that if I had a relative or if myself, I was a professional athlete, that you'd force me to go play and endanger my wife and my kid just because I'm getting paid for it or I'm a professional athlete. I should go play just because you have to go to work. It doesn't work like that. And
I'm not here for my life isn't for your amusement, bro.
It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Right, Pete. Yeah, I agree with Pete 100% on that. It's that case I mention on here all the time, guys. It's people who can't see past their own fucking noses, and like honestly, it's sad. And I disagree with you in terms of Chuck. It's like where I'm surprised where we are as a society. I'm not. Everybody's in it for themselves. Nobody thinks about anyone else. Oh, the mask is uncomfortable, this and that. Oh, like that's the shit that I hear when I go out. Like I've been out a couple of times, in safe environments and I wear my mask and stuff. And I hear that people bitch about it. Well, guess what? Suck it up, Buttercup. It's not for your safety. Yeah, maybe I'm cool with it. Maybe if I see you guys in person, I got no problem giving you guys a hug because I know you guys are smart as shit, and I don't like you're not doing anything you shouldn't be. Like, I'm comfortable with you guys, that I feel like if I saw you guys, I want to give you a hug. Like, I'm not worried about anything.
Right.
But nobody else knows you. It's like the thing we're at bars right now, where people are like, first of all, I'm taking out the non-social distancing aspect of the idiots at these bars who aren't doing that. But there are certain bars that are doing things the right way, and it's spread, and everything's spread out. And they say, hey, when you're sitting at your table, you can take your mask off. And why? Because the assumption is if your mask is off and these people, whether you know them or not, are sitting at your table and their masks are off, they understand the rules, and they're comfortable being in that presence with those people. However, just because me, Pete, and Chuck sit at the table and we know each other and we're high-fiving each other or giving a hug or whatever, that doesn't mean that when I go to the bathroom and I have to walk by other tables, like even though those people don't have masks off with their people, it's because they're comfortable with that group, but they don't know me.
Yeah.
So if I have to put a mask on for a 15-second walk to go take a piss, I'll do it because those people deserve that kind of respect, as do I. I expect that kind of respect back. Now, is it an inconvenience? Sure. Is it the worst thing in the world that you have to put a mask on periodically for certain things? Right now, no. Yeah. No, if it's saving lives or making people not get fucking lung damage, like the median age for getting this right now for all these positive tests that are coming up is around 34, 35 years old now. It's not old people anymore. And you want to know why? Because they're staying home. Regardless of things, they're staying home. So now the rise in cases is all younger people. So, but again, there's lung damage and stuff that's coming. Yeah, these people aren't dying, but there are still effects out there that can affect you for the rest of your freaking life. So do I expect a professional athlete to go out there and do that? No. I miss sports. Let me rephrase. I miss sports. Of course I miss sports. But do I miss sports to the level that I'm so selfish that I have to watch a basketball game or a hockey game or a football game or a baseball game at any means for those people to go out there and entertain me? Absolutely not. And you'll never convince me that you're not a selfish prick if you think otherwise. It's one thing to miss it, and if those guys are willing to go and do it, and there's a reasonable way to do it, that's a whole different story. But to expect that they owe it to us,
that's different.
They
don't owe you shit.
Yeah. And Yusef just made a comment that I think rang so true. Pretty much saying, I've said this a week or two ago. If our leader, who is in the office of the presidency, came out with the mask on, I think it would speak volumes.
Oh, I agree. 100%.
It would speak volumes. That because we as a people, not me personally, but some people follow the beat of your drum. So they will follow your lead. So lead.
Mm-hmm.
Lead so that way if you do win a second term that you have a society to lead, because the way this is going right now, shit ain't never gonna stop, man. And if people gonna rely on the vaccine, it's like almost like to the point now, if you catch it, you wanted to catch it. Because so many people are taking the precautions. So many people have been touched by the disease in their family or a loved one or a friend that they're taking the extra precaution now. You know what I mean? So
my buddy's wife died from it, man. Like,
wow.
To me, it's like, and she wasn't that old. She was in her 40s. Like, to me, it's like you devalue human life so much. You're that selfish. Like, we're all stir crazy. Be creative. Yeah. Find a new hobby. Figure something out to do. Like, I'm not saying for people to not ever go out and do things. And I do think that we have to responsibly open up. But you see what happens, right? How many times do we say it? Look at the state of New Jersey as an example, just because we can all speak to it. You're given an inch and people take a mile. They open up the bars and they say, hey, guys, do things the right way, and then we'll get to the next phase. So what happens? You start seeing pictures of all these bars in like Central Jersey, and one not even that far from me. I don't know if it was Morristown or Marlton, one of those two, where it's an outside bar and people are shoulder to shoulder like it's the Spot in Glassboro and by Stockton or whatever. Not Stockton, Rowan.
Yeah.
It's just insane. And you see all this stuff out there, and now what happens? Those places now losing their outdoor liquor license and ability to serve food outdoors because of the shenanigans. And while you see it with a bunch of people, now the place that I go to has done everything properly. It's not packed there. They go to their limitations. They enforce the mask rule. If you don't have it, you're out. That's it. You don't get to come back in you're out. And they never have an issue because people respect it and follow it. Because guess what? Now, what do you do? Because you're selfish, you don't just screw us for being able to go out. All these businesses who went out. I read something today about a business that went out and spent like $10,000, hasn't been open for months. Spent $10,000 on food, expecting to be able to open up by July 3rd for the holiday weekend. And because morons couldn't follow simple requests, safety requests, they screw those business owners because now they have to scale back and push back the next phase. And people say, oh, like, I'm not defending our governor because he's done a lot of stupid shit. But I also think in terms of how a lot of this stuff has been handled, the state of New Jersey as a whole is one of the states that has taken a wait-and-see precaution, and you see it in the numbers, doesn't have the crazy spikes. Mm-hmm. And, they're not opening up things early and sending people out there at 50% capacity pretty much from, like, jump. And now because you couldn't wait an extra 2 weeks to pull your fucking mask off irresponsibly and stand next to people shoulder to shoulder, now you screw all those businesses. People want to blame the governor, but it's not just the governor. It's these idiots out here who can't respect things. And, I'm sorry. If you're one of those people and you don't like what I have to say, I don't care. Because I care about other people. It's not just about me. It's about seeing other people succeed. Because we're so selfish that we couldn't wait a few more weeks, I'm seeing businesses that now have to close up. Because that person went out and spent $10,000 on this food that they probably really couldn't afford to by not being able to open their doors. Now that stock is going to go bad. And guess what? Good chance that place is going to have to close now because they're running out of money. So Think about that stuff. Don't just think about the people you're at the bar with. Think about how you're affecting these business owners who are trying to get to this green phase to open their businesses. It's not that far away if people start following protocols and respect the process that's in place. Please, that's all I ask. I don't want to see these businesses closing anymore. It makes me sick.
Yeah.
Sorry, boys.
No,
man.
I haven't been on to
just
talk
love
about
each other like you love your loved ones, man.
I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you too, brother.
Freaking miss you on the show, man.
You know what else I love, guys? I love the Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy. Doc is great. He's the best in the business. You can find him in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton, New Jersey, and find him on the web at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. You know who else I love? I love Ambuck Services. I like Michael Ambrose. I love the work that they do on the outside, getting the house ready so that I can host people like yourselves in the summertime so we can have something to do and some interaction with each other. And you won't come over here and talk shit on how stupid my house looks. And you know what? If you tell Michael that we sent you, you get 25% off. Let him know that A2D and Tom sent you, and that's at ambuckservices.com. Play QB54. Guys, let's hang out. You need something to do during all this shit that we're talking about? Go get Play QB54, okay? PlayQB54.com. Fun tailgating game. Go out there. And you know who else I love, guys? I love Philly Drinkers. Sweet-ass gear. Sweet-ass gear. Go to check it out, phillydrinkers.com. Alex, shout out to him again. I love that guy, and I'm not just saying it because I'm throwing a love fest out there. I do. He's such an awesome dude. He's so much fun to work with. They have such awesome stuff on there. So check out the A2D collection. Check out everything they got on there. Go get the QB Factory shirt. And by the way, 25% off. Use the promo code A2D on that shirt only, not your whole purchase order. Go out and get your favorite show shirt. Go out and get yourself A2D gear. Go get yourself some swim shorts, a tumbler, get your stickers, all that good stuff. Get on there and check them out, phillydrinkers.com. And obviously, Body Check Wellness. We want to say shout out to them. Riley Cote, Todd Harrimans. Great stuff they're doing with the CBD oils. And by the way, if you don't know a lot about it, because I really do, I mean this. I feel like, I don't know if you guys caught that interview, but there's a lot of stuff I didn't know about it and kind of the evolution of, we're not talking recreational cannabis use. But there's a lot you can really learn in terms of the medical cannabis and how it can improve your quality of life. You can learn a lot if you go check them out at bodycheckwellness.com and pick up some products. Use the promo code A2D. It'll get you 20% off. But yeah, some really good stuff. And by the way, just so you don't misspell it, it's Body Check is CHEK wellness.com. And happy Bobby Bonilla Day to you boys.
Yes, I wish.
Day to celebrate and prosper.
God, I wish. I'd take half of it.
But good stuff today, boys.
Yes.
Next week we'll have Kev back. I might be on with you guys. We'll see. If not, dish it out and give it to Kev for me, please.
Wide receivers and Cam Newton talk. Should be
wide receivers and Cam Newton talk. So for myself, for Chucks, Mr. Pete Evans down here, Ryan Brodo on the ones and twos back there, doing a phenomenal job as always, buddy. We appreciate you hanging a little longer with us so we can go on a little rant there. And from everybody at A2D, we love you guys. Stay tuned tomorrow. You got the fix in the PM. That'll be a lot of fun. And have a great night and stay safe. Love you guys.
Stay safe. Peace.